Coming up next on this YouTube exclusive edition of the RCWR Show, we cover the fallout from WWE Raw as it came to us from the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, where John Cena and The Rock collided for the first time in several weeks, as it was a Q&A segment with WWE current and future legends. You don't want to miss this. If you weren't able to catch Raw tonight, kick on back and enjoy. It's the RCWR Show YouTube exclusive, and it begins right now.
The following is an Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, interactive, covering the latest in wrestling and beyond. You're listening to the RCWR Show with Lee Sanders.
Welcome to this exclusive YouTube edition of the RCWR Show. I am your host, the Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders. Thank you all for checking out tonight's episode right now on March 25th, 2013. We are just, can you taste it, folks, 2 weeks away from one of the biggest pay-per-views of all time as WWE comes home to the New Jersey, New York area. It's WrestleMania, and with this week's WWE Raw, things started to take a very serious turn for the better with some of those main highlight matches that's going to be going down at Mania. It received another spark, if you will, into making fans truly feel invested into checking out these matches that's going to be going down, and also strengthening the mid-card at the same time. Let's kick it from the very top, folks. We saw, to close out tonight's episode of WWE Raw, one of the most well-executed segments in quite some time. We saw the WWE Champion, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, make his eagerly anticipated return back to the ring. I know fans had been missing him for a good while there. I was trying to say. Some even complaining that Raw just isn't worth checking out since he's not going to be on there. Well, rest assured, worry no more. We got the People's Champion back in the house tonight. We also got John Cena, and what an explosive Q&A segment it was, as it was led by moderator, WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler, who introduced his panel, which consisted of none other than the SmackDown General Manager and future WWE Hall of Famer, as he's part of that 2013 class, Booker T. We also saw 2007 inductee, or correction, I should say. Actually, I had that right. 2007 WWE Hall of Fame inductee, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. They were also joined by the hardcore legend himself, Mick Foley, who's going to be joining Booker T into the 2013 class. And we also got to see the 2006 Hall of Famer, Bret Hitman Hart. What an explosive panel that it was, as we saw Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena just kind of glancing at each other in the early beginnings there, as Mick Foley began to open it up, talking about the match at WrestleMania 20 where he teamed up with The Rock in that tag match and they lost, and he had to carry that burden of knowing that it was he that had caused the Rock and South Connection to lose on the grandest stage of them all. And he truly had believed that at that point, that was going to be the last time that we would ever see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in a ring again, let alone at WrestleMania. Lo and behold, how the feeling it was for Mick Foley to see that it would be John Cena that would carry that burden last year in that first encounter, as he lost to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So Mick Foley asking the question there, why does he feel that he would be able to beat The Rock this time? Furthermore, can he handle another defeat? Can he handle that burden of losing to The Rock again? And Cena tells him that no matter what, come win, lose, or draw at this year's WrestleMania, it's going to be a historic day that's going to change the fate of the WWE Universe forever. As it's quite simple. If he wins, then everything comes full circle and he gets his redemption. Losing is not a real option, as he realizes that the regret that could come from losing again. And very interesting fact right here, especially since they're at the Wells Fargo in Philly. Cena actually brings up former Eagles quarterback, longtime quarterback there at that, Donovan McNabb, and the fans, they just really ate this up as they booed the hell out of the Donovan McNabb name, and Cena brilliantly was able to capitalize on this, saying, you know why the WWE Universe here in Philly is booing Donovan McNabb? It's because statistically, yes, he is one of the best quarterbacks, but he's being booed because no matter what, he couldn't win the big one when it counted the most. And it is with that, are they just like the WWE Universe from city to city, state to state? For Cena to lose again to The Rock from there on out, city to city, state to state, he will be booed for not winning the big one. And it's just one of those big regrets that he feels he can handle, but that Dwayne Johnson cannot handle, as unfortunately it will be coming to him in 13 days. And it was a little bit dragging right here in this segment as the chants turned into boos for Cena just right as he stopped talking. Luckily, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he picks it up, telling a phenomenal story about back when he was 23 years old, up and coming in the WWE, being flat broke, getting a bed from the alleyway of some hotel, and the amount of stench funk that was on it, everything that he had to do to try to clean that bed off, talking about those hard times, those upbringings, leading him into the WWE, first trying out, remembering how he got sidelined with an injury early on. Upper WWE management, they told him to go home, rest up, get 100% better, and he just kept kicking himself in the ass, trying to figure out how he can get out of that little funk, and he just dusted himself off, and he just trained hard, came back more determined, more focused than ever, and it led him to becoming one of the youngest champions in WWE history at that time. And he recalls coming into Philly as that young WWE champion and losing to one WWE Hall of Famer, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And remembers how he went to the backstage area after his match and had his head down, wondering what was next for him. But again, he quickly dusted himself off, came back stronger and better than ever to accomplish everything else in the WWE and outside of the WWE. And it's with all that that The Rock is able to stand before John Cena on this night and promises that once again he's gonna kick Cena's ass at WrestleMania. Well, Bret Hitman Hart, he actually kind of went in an area that probably was on a lot of people's minds and asking both men the rivalry that they had last year. It was just downright bitter. It was nasty. It was gritty. It was something that a lot of folks were able to get behind, as it kind of reminded him of Shawn Michaels and himself and their little rivalry that they had going on, and wants to know what has changed since then, because obviously that's missing. So what is it that has changed? Well, Dwayne "Rock" Johnson, he would point out how there was no bitching, moaning, complaining after John Cena had lost in the middle of the ring last year. He pretty much took his ass whooping like a man, and it's with that that he respects Cena, as he showed some class and he showed some respect. John Cena remembers firing off those ugly shots that had kicked off the rivalry, talking about how The Rock promises that he's in the WWE but would always be gone the next time around, go do some stuff in Hollywood. And he remembers how he was the one that was taking those shots at him early on, and also talked about how since WrestleMania, the two men, they've never hung out. Heck, they didn't even hang out before that. But he does appreciate the love and respect that The Rock does have for the WWE. And he was like many people in the WWE universe that thought that this was going to be a one-time deal, that he and Rock were going to meet up, thus the once-in-a-lifetime gimmick. And he thought for sure that after The Rock had got the win there in his home state in Florida, that was going to be it. Rock was going to ride off high into the sunset. We were never going to see him again. Then it turns out he's coming back to the WWE for another title shot. And here we are right now. And look, we got this second rematch right here. And as far as Cena is concerned, he still feels that he's going to be the one to whoop The Rock's ass this year. As he quickly points out to him, it's going to be he, The Rock, that's going to need to show Cena that proper respect and class once he gets his ass beat. Of course, The Rock I'm talking about, once he suffers that loss to John Cena. Well, we see Booker T, who surprisingly, and I didn't even really realize this fact until Booker T said it. Try saying that 4 times fast. Booker T actually tells both men how he's been in the ring with both of them respectively, so he knows what they're capable of. But he goes into Cena, kind of rips into him a little bit more, and says, why do you feel, John Cena, that you're going to beat The Rock at WrestleMania this year? And we actually see a perplexed yet unconfident John Cena who's speechless for a few seconds as he just mumbles into the microphone that because he has to. And The Rock picks up on this and tells him that's a weak load of monkey crap and wants to know the truth. And he just grills into John Cena saying, that answer you gave, it's unacceptable. Why don't you tell these folks really what the deal is? What is it that's eating you up, ripping you up inside? Put your heart out there. Let us have it. And Cena, for the first time ever, he admits to The Rock and the panel that he knows that he should have beat The Rock at last year's WrestleMania, and that it was not The Rock that beat him, for he beat himself, and he had The Rock right where he wanted him, but it was because of one foolish mistake that he made that cost him the match, which was thinking he was going to be able to win the match by doing The Rock's own people's elbow. It was with that mistake that cost him the match, but he knows in his heart of hearts that he can beat The Rock, as he proclaimed he pretty much owned The Rock's ass for a majority of that match. He was carrying him. Well, we see The Rock counter right back and say, if you truly had me beat, John, you would have beaten me, but you didn't. We all remember that match. We all have watched it back. Even these legends have watched it. And yes, you came at me with your best A game. You hit me with your attitude adjustment. You just came up short. I kicked out of it. You just were no match for me. Just how you're not going to be any match for me again at this year's WrestleMania. Well, we see Dusty Rhodes. He jumps in right after some very heated words that The Rock tells John Cena. And this shit got real right here, folks. We actually see John Cena get schooled by The Rock as the People's Champion told him, in order to beat a man, woo, you've got to beat the man, quoting, of course, two-time WWE Hall of Famer, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, as Rocky tells him that Cena, can't beat the man because he isn't the man. Furthermore, as far as The Rock is concerned, John Cena will never be the man. And we see Dusty Rhodes step in, and he tells both men that when it's all said and done, this second encounter at WrestleMania, it is not about friendship, it is not about respect, it is all about winning and losing. As he asks John Cena a very simple question, and The Rock as well for that matter, which is, what do they feel is going to take to win the big one at WrestleMania? What does he think that both men have to do? Well, as far as Cena is concerned, he has to go out there on WrestleMania night and win the big one. He has to demolish The Rock. Cena wants to do more than that. He wants to dominate The Rock. He wants to outperform The Rock. As Cena wants for him to be lying on his back that night and retract his statement that he made of John Cena not belonging in the Attitude Era, and instead actually take a rightful place among the likes of The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Chris Jericho, etc., etc. Well, we see The Rock. He tells him the only thing that's going to happen the night after WrestleMania, the morning will come, Rock will still be the People's Champion and the WWE Champion, and John Cena, you're going to be kicking back, eating a big fat bowl of Fruity Pebbles, wondering why. And we actually see John Cena tell The Rock that that's not going to be the case, as The Rock tells him, you know what, why don't we just do this right here, right now? And we see both men get into each other's face. Looks like we're about to have a WrestleMania preview as John Cena gestures with the "you can't see me," and boom, we see The Rock push John Cena, and both men start flying with the hands as John Cena looked like he was about to hit The Rock with the Attitude Adjustment, but The Rock quickly jumps off his back and counters with the Rock Bottom to lay out the Save Nation leader before stepping out of the ring and looking on and telling him to just bring it. An explosive way to end WWE Raw. If you were paying attention to our website over at InfinityOneProductions.com over the weekend, you know now we put into a regular rotation over the weekend things that you can expect to see on WWE Raw. And I pointed out that now that we've had The Rock and John Cena be kept off TV for a while there, with The Rock being away a little bit longer, I was expecting, and I put this out there, I said, you really should expect for the rivalry to take it to another level. If you still haven't felt like you need to be invested into this match, look for another spark to come tonight. And WWE, they really delivered right here. It kind of felt as though for a couple of weeks there, okay, yeah, it's the rematch, okay, whatever, redemption, but we really didn't have that much behind it. There really wasn't much else we could really kind of sink our teeth into. And with the way they executed this tonight with the WWE current legends and future legends, they did a phenomenal job of this. I can't wait to see these two guys get it on, because quite honestly, with that big revelation out there that The Rock is going to be around until a little bit after the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, folks, this could really go in either way. We could see The Rock still retain the WWE title and maybe perhaps drop it at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, or maybe we could see John Cena walk away with the title. It can really go either way. It's too close to call right now. But man, this was the shot that was needed. This was that joke that was long overdue to try to make fans that saw last year's WrestleMania match between Rock and Cena actually say, okay, you know what? I definitely want to check this out now. Let's see what the hell is going to happen. So, really great segment, great strong ending there for Raw. Let's talk about what had happened at the very beginning. Let's keep the momentum going. Of course, Raw had opened up with the voice of the voiceless, CM Punk, along with Paul Heyman, as CM Punk was playing Globetrotters once again with that urn. We saw Paul Heyman actually toss it to CM Punk once he entered the ring. And CM Punk still very confident and defiant in that he will be the one at 21 to give Undertaker his first loss at WrestleMania. And Punk would point out how it's a feature that is definitely one of those that should be respected, as he thought, quite honestly, Undertaker was going to lose those few times that he went up against Shawn Michaels and then Triple H. He thought for sure last year's WrestleMania Triple H was going to have it, and he and Shawn Michaels were going to skip off into the sunset. But once again, Undertaker was able to defy the odds, something that he's always able to do at WrestleMania. As he tells Undertaker, you should have just went off into the sunset right there, but you didn't. Instead, you came out a couple of weeks back, you pointed at the WrestleMania sign, disrespecting me, and I'm just not having that. And we see CM Punk talks about that urn there. And he tells Undertaker straight up that he does not respect him, nor does he give a flying crap about the urn, as he deliberately drops it onto the canvas. As he tells Undertaker he knows what the urn means to him, as he's heard the rumors that it is a source of his power, that it is a source of his spirit, if you will, and that's why he has that urn. And he actually welcomes Undertaker to come out to try to get that urn away from him, while saying that his streak at this year's WrestleMania will rest in peace, because he is the one at 20-1. Well, the lights go black, and when resumed, we see The Undertaker standing in the ring, and he's throwing it down with CM Punk very briefly, delivering those quick strikes. Undertaker starting to look a little better as far as the shape goes. He looks better than what we had saw of him at that WWE live show event a couple of weeks back, leading into his return to main WWE programming. Well, we see CM Punk, he gets tossed out the ring, as well as the urn, unfortunately, as Undertaker, he was about to go for it, but Paul Heyman quickly grabbed it, ran off to the backstage area, as CM Punk ran right behind him, and the two men just continued to look on at The Undertaker, as once again, CM Punk is able to dodge The Undertaker, at least for now, as he still has that urn. The mind games continue, and I just love the way CM Punk has been playing off the past couple of weeks. He really has been jumping out there as that guy you just have to hate. I love how the writing has just been with him. I know that with the death of William Paul Bear Moody is still fresh on a lot of people's mind, but man, the way CM Punk is just brilliantly able to just really sink into your skin, to really have you boo him to death, to want to make you see him get his ass beat. I just think he's been doing a phenomenal job, and it's so funny because usually when it comes to these mind games, if you're a long-time Undertaker fan, Taker, he usually has people beat at the mind games, and to see him get beat at his own game, I mean, you want to talk about psychological warfare. CM Punk has just been owning The Undertaker week after week after week. You just wonder, you can't help but wonder, boys and girls, is Undertaker's mind that warped up? Is his mind that jacked up with the passing of his dear close friend, father-like figure? Is he really going to be able to focus at this year's WrestleMania? Is he really that 100% focused? And remember, CM Punk, he's already revealed a little bit of his strategy, as he pointed out on last week's Raw, that he doesn't have to beat The Undertaker by a clean submission or pinfall. They can also come by a countout or disqualification. So is it possible perhaps CM Punk is kind of giving The Undertaker a heads up that that's one of the ways that he's going to be trying to make Taker lose at this year's WrestleMania? Who knows? But another continued and strong segment right here between these two guys as the rivalry continues, and another spark just lit. I mean, they capitalized big time last week in what had went down, but they just continued that momentum going into tonight. I loved how these guys had played off. Well, it's official, folks. We've called it for weeks now, at least 2, maybe even 3 weeks, I said, hey, Fandango, Chris Jericho, looks like maybe this is what we're going to be getting, and that was officially what we got. As we had saw Fandango, he was supposed to be having his in-debut match, but it was interrupted by Chris Jericho. As these two guys, they were getting it on rather briefly, and it was a nice brawl out that we saw going down, but Fandango, he quickly escaped, head off to the back. Before Jericho could even try to get his hands on him, he ended up having his match early against the one and only Dolph Ziggler, as this was supposed to come later in the night. In either case, though, out of 9 matches that we had got on tonight's Raw, this was one of my favorite matches. Definitely a 4-star quality type of match between Chris Jericho, Dolph Ziggler. Jericho actually picked up the win over Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler at this point, I know it may upset a few people, but Ziggler at this point, he can afford to take this loss at the hands of Jericho, because Jericho needs to look strong going into his program with Fandango, as Ziggler, Big E, Langston, they'll be teaming up to take on the World Heavyweight Tag Champions, Kane and Daniel Bryan Danielson, at Mania. And oh yeah, you probably peeped out what I had said between Fandango and Jericho. Yes, it's official, as Chris Jericho, he had came out of Raw General Manager Vicky Guerrero's office to announce to interviewer Josh Matthews that his match with Fandango is set for WrestleMania. And for him, he knows why Fandango is coming after him. It's because of everything that he's accomplished in the WWE, and that he has a big bullseye on his back as a result. And he promised Fandango, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it, and that he will never, ever be the same again. So this is our WrestleMania match, folks, and it looks like the way this is playing out, Fandango will be officially having his in-ring debut on the grandest stage of them all. And what better way to kick it off than in the New Jersey, New York area. So that match is going to be set, folks. Looking forward to that one. Other action that we had we saw Mark Henry defeat the Usos in a 2-on-1 handicap match. That would be followed up later on by Ryback, who wanted to face 3 people in the ring, as he defeated the team of 3MB. And let's not forget, Ryback and Mark Henry, they will be meeting in singles competition against one another at this year's WrestleMania. Antonio Cesaro had defeated Alberto Del Rio via countout with a little bit of help from Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter, as they were looking on at the match. Well, at least Zeb Coulter was from the ramp area. Jack Swagger would come from the crowd section behind a barrier, and he would actually attack Ricardo Rodriguez, who was on crutches and wearing a knee brace, focusing on that damaged leg that he had attacked last week when he had applied that ankle lock. And by the time Del Rio was able to get to Ricardo, Swagger had already left. And we see Antonio Cesaro just prematurely celebrating in the ring. Del Rio did not like this one little bit, as he got in the ring, attacked him, and actually applied the cross arm breaker. Still not quite sure what's going on with WWE as far as Antonio Cesaro. I would hope that with Main Event and SmackDown coming up, maybe perhaps we'll be able to get to hear Cesaro be in some type of a main event match, perhaps at WrestleMania. Would be nice to hear him on the card, or at least on the YouTube pre-show. Keep your fingers crossed, as I know there's a lot of Antonio Cesaro fans out there. We saw Kane and Daniel Bryan Danielson defeat the team of the Primetime Players, Titus O'Neil and Darren Young. Triple H had shared his reactions in a very passionate speech on the new stipulation added to that no-holds-barred match against Brock Lesnar, as the stipulation added is that Triple H's career is going to be on the line. Well, how did Triple H respond to the new stipulation, as he found out the hard way last week at the end of Raw? Well, Triple H, he said, for the past 20 years, he has been stepping inside the ring as if his career has depended on it. and that no matter what, he has always brought his best A game, and he now knows what's at stake. But he feels very confident that he is still going to walk into WrestleMania and beat the living crap out of Brock Lesnar's ass. And he actually warns Lesnar that it's going to be he that needs to be coming into WrestleMania and fighting like his life is on the line, because Triple H isn't coming in there to wrestle. He's coming in there for a fight. And I think that was exactly the words that needed to be said to really make fans feel as though they are not going to be watching just a regular straight up wrestling match, that they're actually going to be watching a fight again. And I can't help but echo this. I know I've been saying it for the past couple of weeks, but again, they're going to be tapping into what Lesnar did with Cena at Extreme Rules. Look for that, okay? May not be a hard use of weapons and props and all that, but it's going to be that type of physicality, I would think, to really be able to kick on back and watch. I think it's going to be definitely one of those unique type of matches that we'll be talking about, as we haven't seen Triple H in one of these type of matches in quite some time, where it's not just about wrestling. But was quite pleased with this. I did have a problem with the end of his little speech, though, as we saw the Intercontinental Champion Wade Barrett come out interrupting Triple H just as he was done talking, as both men just look at each other rather briefly. Wade Barrett gesturing to Triple H to go on ahead, head to the back now because his match was next. Triple H actually took a low blow to the groin of Wade Barrett. I just really thought that really wasn't needed. I thought that was just a little bit silly. They could have just went without that. I guess they kind of felt like something needed to happen right there. But in either case, we would actually end up seeing Wade Barrett defeat The Miz. Or correction, we would actually see The Miz defeat Wade Barrett. And I just can't wait to see these two guys get it on already for the Intercontinental title. But at the same time, am I the only one that's a little bit sick and tired of seeing The Miz do the whole figure four leg lock, paying homage to Ric Flair? I just think it's just a little bit too much. I can't wait for WWE to kind of squash this already. But hey, we're continuing to see this mega push of a babyface Miz, which I really don't feel is going off the way that it should. It just really feels too forced. And I'm one of those type of cats that likes to kick back and be like, okay, well, why is this turn happening? Is it natural? What's been that pivotal point? And we really haven't quite seen that from The Miz. It's just all of a sudden, boom. Same thing with Alberto Del Rio, just boom. Moving along now, we saw the Shields, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns make a rare appearance as they had a tag team match. It was a 6-man tag as they took on and defeated the team of Justin Gabriel, Zack Ryder, and Craig Khali. Now, post-match, they actually got surrounded by the Big Show, Randy Orton, and Sheamus. They actually were looking for a little bit of payback of what had happened earlier in the night. As Shield members, they tried to get a jump on them in a backstage segment. Well, we actually finally saw these 6 guys throw it down, and looked like Team Orton had got the best of the Shield as Shield retreated into the crowd section. And that was a pretty good segment right there. And once again, I cannot wait to see the Shield on the grandest stage of them all, as officially this match was set. It is going to be the Shield taking on Randy Orton, Big Show, and Sheamus. Can't wait to see how that plays out. Other matches had included, for the first time in several weeks on WWE Raw programming, we saw AJ Lee. God, when was the last time you saw AJ Lee in a singles match, boys and girls? Seems like it's been almost a year, probably. We saw her defeat Caitlyn, and this was actually via countout as a result of the action going outside of the ring. Caitlyn was trying to look for a spear, and AJ, just in time, was able to sidestep as Caitlyn went head first into a wall barrier. AJ quickly went back into the ring. Referee had no choice but to count to 10. Caitlyn was not able to make it in time. Now, one could argue that by this move, AJ technically is a #1 contender for the Divas title. Could we possibly see maybe in a YouTube pre-show match AJ Lee take on Caitlyn for the title? It is possible. I mean, we are hearing the rumblings that WWE, they really don't want for there to be a Divas match on the card at WrestleMania this year, but the YouTube pre-show, hey, they might be able to do something with that. Who knows? It's between that and Antonio Cesaro. Just giving you guys a heads up right now. But that is going to do it. Other action had included Antonio. We already talked about Antonio Cesaro. We did see the Team Rhodes Scholars. They were in action as they had defeated the team of Sweet Tea and Brodus Clay. But overall, I was quite pleased with tonight's episode of WWE Raw. It was a nice balance of the old heads such as Mark Henry, Kane, Triple H, The Rock, Jericho, but then you had that nice balance in the Shields, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Ryback, Fandango, AJ, hey, even Ziggler. It was nice seeing that nice new mix, that nice new breed mixed into it. I was really quite pleased with this as WrestleMania is really starting to take shape. It's really starting to look like it's going to be a better card than last year for the most part. I definitely would have to give Raw tonight on a scale of 1 to 10. I would have to give it a modest 7.5. Out of 10. I thought it was a fairly decent episode. Not really too dulled. You know, there was probably, if I could pick out maybe one segment I thought was a little bit that they could have did without. I could have honestly did without. I'm thinking about it in my head. I actually could have went without the. I would say AJ taking on Caitlyn. That was pretty much a squash match. That was done in like about 3 minutes. I could have cared less about that. That was pretty much a bathroom break right there for real. But other than that, it was a pretty fairly decent episode. Alright, so boys and girls, I want to tell you guys as we're wrapping this up, WWE Raw is going to be coming to the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. on April 1st, next week. And guess what? Yours truly, the Black Avenger Lee Sanders of the RCWR Show, as well as the lovely co-producer Tammy. We're going to be going to that event. We're going to be sharing with you guys live tweets and pictures all night long. So make sure that you add us on Twitter at Infinity1Prod. You can also follow our new Twitter handle at the RCWR Show for upcoming show infos, links, guests, the whole 9 yards. And it's going to be very freaking awesome. So for those of you that might be looking for a Raw post show Monday night, you will not get it. Instead, you can actually check me out as I make a brief cameo on Diamond K's Ustream Radio. It'll be at 11:30 p.m. Eastern, assuming that Raw will be over by then. If it ends up being a little bit too late, then guaranteed you will hear my experience of the Raw event on next Tuesday night's episode of the RCWR Show, and you'll be able to catch that live at 11 p.m. Eastern at blogtalkradio.com/the RCWR Show. If you want to just wait it out and check out our remixed enhanced audio version of the show, then you definitely want to stick around on YouTube, as we will be uploading it to here as soon as we are done. But that's going to do it. Join us this Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern with me and Diamond K as we go more in depth about key segments from tonight's WWE Raw, while also offering early match predictions. We're going to go in depth. We're not going to spend 3 minutes talking about it. We're actually going to go in depth and talk about our predictions for winners of this year's WrestleMania, and we'll also hook you up with the very latest in wrestling-related news. Hey, talk of wrestling may be over right here, but it continues at our website over at InfinityOneProductions.com. And once again, like us on Facebook at the same name, Twitter at Infinity1Prod, and our new Twitter handle at the RCWR Show. You can check out our episodes on the downloads by hopping on over to iTunes and just search the RCWR Show. Episodes also available for all your respective portable devices and iDevices with Stitcher. If you don't have that new Stitcher app, then you are missing out, my friends. Stitcher, new and smart way to play internet radio. This is the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders, thanking you for checking out this YouTube exclusive edition of the RCWR Show. Everybody be safe and be kind to one another. We'll see you next time. Take care.